Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, gunner, goo boy, Jacob Gloth. Hello, Jacob. How are you doing?
I'm good. I got called a gunner twice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Last week and this week.
Both times.
Yep. Crazy.
Just a little peek behind the curtain, folks. This is a double record. We're going back to back.
Yeah,
so
Charlie's an idiot.
I'm a loosey-goosey idiot.
Yeah.
And Jake's a tight cannon.
So the problem with the double record is I wrote this a while ago.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember it.
That's how I do most of mine. Let's hear it!
Okay, well, at the top I have premise, a hive-mind virus takes over the world and survivors are forced to pretend to fit in or die/assimilate.
Okay.
So, essentially, the infection takes over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blood disease, so, you gotta, like, get scratched or, some other form of blood transfer to get the disease.
Sexually active with someone who has it?
Yeah, but they'd be part of the hive mind, so I don't really know why you would.
I don't know. People into that.
So, once you get it, you're part of the hive mind society, so you lose all your control over yourself and you're, just part of your unit in a system. And it quickly overwhelms all of the resistance and forces the remaining survivors of humanity into hiding. Ooh. So survivors in this universe live by blending in and hiding, because, see, the hive mind, it's a very big thing, you got to think about it like this huge global entity. So
yeah.
it's kind of easy to hide from because it won't really notice you. So you can walk past other members of the hive mind as long as you're like, trying to fit in.
Maybe
if you don't
stand out,
sort of break from tradition or whatever people are doing, it won't notice you. It's like a fly on a horse.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, maybe the hive mind causes some physical transformation, like that everyone who has the hive mind, like, virus has, and if you don't, you don't have it. But it's like, if you get infected by the hive mind virus, you grow a big red nose, like the kind that clowns have, like a big red rubber nose. So the way that the survivors blend in is like, how in The Walking Dead they'll cover themselves in like zombie guts to escape. Instead, they're just like they're disguised as a big red nose. That big rubber red nose that they wear on their face, and they're like, "This is how I blend into society."
I like the idea, but maybe something more sensible than a big rubber red nose.
Maybe giant feet. If you get infected by the virus, you get your feet double in size. You grow a tail.
So maybe in a more serious vein, maybe it makes you really pale, and you have like blue veins going across your face, and so they just put like makeup on.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Because this is kind of a serious show, and I don't think giant floppy shoes would really fit in with the aesthetic I'm going for.
But wouldn't it be what's more terrifying? Like a gang of thousands of people trying to run you down to turn them into one of you? Or a gang of thousands of clown people running you down to turn you into one of them?
Oh, that's funny.
That's horrifying. Clown people? They've got giant, like, huge feet and gross noses.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sold yet, but I could be sold.
Okay.
So, you understand the world now. It's sort of modern times.
Is it like, are they, like, living in a, like, bunker? Because I kind of imagine them as being in, like, a suburban neighborhood.
So it's
like,
sort of a variety. So our main character in the pilot, her name is Arabella. She lives alone in her apartment in the city, and she survives by just playing Hive, and she goes out for food and like when she needs to leave her apartment, she like just survives by doing that, and she just sort of lives in her apartment. And so we're gonna start by following her through her daily routine as she like goes to the store and like goes through her life. We're gonna see like some very obviously sort of boring dialogue, if that makes sense, like between her and other hive minds. Like it's like they all have like the same generic statements that they make between each other.
Yeah, it's like move, thank you. Because I think they would. from what you've described it as, I think that the shells of the people would retain some amount of humanity. Like, I think that there would be a lot of boring dialogue, but they would be speaking in the language that they spoke before they were taken over. And it's just like somebody, nobody opens the door for each other in this universe. So maybe that's like one of the big things is like, oh yeah, they can figure out if you're fucking polite. They know that you're not one of them.
Oh my god. That's kind of funny, actually. Yeah, it's sort of like the way they speak is kind of like Orwellian newspeak. It's like very direct. It's just like to the point and that's it. There's not a lot of, adjectives or whatever. And so we go through her daily routine as she's like getting supplies. And we get back to her apartment. Because she's very, at this point in the episode, you don't really realize that she's not part of the hive mind until she gets back to her apartment, opens the door, like drops the act, and you see like fucking guns and like sandbags and shit all set up. It's like very obvious that she's
she takes
a survivor.
off the red nose.
The red nose and the shoes and the clown hat and the
maybe
and
the shoes. I think it should be either the shoes or the red nose.
You're
one or the
crazy.
other.
Anyway, we can see that obviously she's got a bit of a fortress in her apartment, and she goes by and she sits by a radio, playing static, and she eats her dinner. At the end,
is she one of those bummer survivors who's like just really somber and sad all the time? Or I think that this girl that you're describing, I think should have a bit more of a relax. She's living with it. Maybe she lives like she's got this thing like a outside like chair situation set up. She's got a bong. She's just hanging out, not enjoying life, but she's gotten used to living as a member of the hive society.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see that. So she's not sad, but she's just like she's okay with her life as in her apartment, basically. So that's the only place she can sort of be herself.
Yeah.
At the end of the meal, she writes nothing in a calendar planner next to the radio and turns it off. So that is sort of the idea of the pilot.
Maybe
that's sort of we get the idea, and so we're going to see I guess we can include this in the pilot, actually. So then it's a sort of montage of her going through her days, and at the end of it, she gets a call on the radio. So it goes through the montage of her continually just listening to the static, and the whole point of her listening to the static is she's waiting for something on one of the channels, and she finally gets the call, and it's her brother. We realize she's been waiting for contact from her brother. And it's a very messed up message, but essentially it tells her like he's in New Babylon and she needs to come to him. He's like, he says like, it's amazing here, it's great, there's no hive mind, whatever. And the show is essentially her journey to New Babylon across the United States.
I think it would be cool if like the first episode was like entirely silent, like no words were spoken.
Yeah.
Except for the radio in the last like 2 minutes of the episode.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think that would be a cool way to do it. Like maybe you can see that she talks with the hive mind people, or that the hive mind people talk.
Yeah, but it's not.
We never actually hear it because it's not really, speech. It's just kind of like verbal,
Yeah.
utterances. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Does she get a car?
Well, she does, yeah, eventually. So she packs up and prepares to leave. So she begins her journey to find out where Arabella is. She, gets a car and drives out of the city. She's able to do this pretty easily because she's sort of mastered the art of blending in with the other, like, hive mind people. And they drive cars and stuff, so it's, all.
Just something I can think about is, like, maybe the hive mind... And, like, how in all these post-apocalyptic universes, there's always the highways are covered in cars?
Yeah.
Maybe there's, like, no cars anywhere. The hive mind is like, well, the cars are destroying the planet, so no more cars. So everyone just walks there, and, the hive mind doesn't give a shit if your feet hurt because you walked 10 miles to your house or whatever. So maybe that's, like, her first obstacle.
Interesting.
In this the show could be like, well, I have to find a car that hasn't been like destroyed or dismantled. So she like all of the car dealerships and everything are closed down. Maybe she like stumbles onto a farm.
Yeah.
And somebody was building, a car, fixing up a car. And then we could do a past, like a flashback montage thing where she she does the last of the fixing up of the car and remembers her brother and her, when they used to, work on their bikes together or whatever before
the hive mind, yeah.
The unification.
The unification. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I think I like that idea better than what I had. So we might do that, but I want to tell you mine just because it's, it exists as well. Mine was that, how in the future when all cars are automatic, right? Or like controlled by AI, right? And we're all going to be able to, like all cars will move at like a designated speed and there'll be no traffic because they're so perfect or whatever. And there'll be the perfect amount of space between each one and what have you. Essentially, she'd have to drive in that as a real person.
Oh, I like that too. That'd be really difficult.
Yeah.
I think that would be something cool to do because I think if New Babylonia is actually a city filled with human beings and not, just a ruse to get people to come there to get captured, I think it would be very interesting. I think it'd be cool, at least as visually, if you have that, like, sort of AI, all perfect orders, blocks, and, like, everyone moves when they're supposed to. And it's military troops, and it's all, like, tanks and, like, armored vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like a giant ant farm of people, raiding New Babylonia. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And maybe she can discover their weakness.
Well, I didn't actually get that far in the story, but we'll get to as far as I got soon.
I'm imagining that she smokes a lot of weed. I don't know why.
I didn't have that as a character trait. I sort of had her as like a kind of like a badass survivalist type who's a bit sort of jaded by the whole thing because she's very alone or has been for a long time.
Yeah, I was thinking of her.
But maybe she can have a bit of fun. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking of more of her as like at the beginning of the apocalypse sort of situation. She was very timid, and like she's very intelligent, but she's timid and kind of a little bit scared of everything. But things happen off screen that we don't see that make her more confident and brave. But she's also like less. She uses her intellect less. She's more emotionally driven, and she does drugs now. Like before the apocalypse, she was a teetotaler. She never touched the stuff. Afterwards, she's all about it. All about that. That's smoking life. That's sparking it up.
Maybe, or maybe like she is that way at the beginning of the story. Very strict, unrelaxed person, and sort of as she travels across the U.S. and meets the side characters I have, she becomes more relaxed.
Yeah.
Because maybe she's been alone for so long, she's like afraid to make friends because they'll die. It can be sort of assumed that she had a group before, but they all died, and that's why she lives alone.
Yeah, and that's why her brother and her got separated, and so there's some drama happening. Probably you could, if it was popular, if the show was popular, we could release like a comic book.
Yeah. Like
a prequel comic book series that's like 3 issues, and it tells the story of what's her name again?
Arabella.
It's not. Is it?
Arabella. We'd probably call her Bella for short.
Yeah.
Or Belle.
Maybe she gets a dog.
Oh, I like that.
Like she finds she's driving along the highway, and it's completely empty because the hive mind's like outlawed combustion engines or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like creating sci-fi technology that means that like energy is no longer a problem, but it's still working on that. And she finds a dog that she picks up, and they just hang out together, and she's like, oh, he's a good boy, and they make friends. And she finds in his collar that he has like an ounce of marijuana hidden in his collar because he's a drug dog. Like he's a dog being used for trafficking drugs across the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Oh my god.
And she just intercepted it. And so then I'm just trying to think of like storylines we could put in. Like, I think it would be cool if that happened, and then, you know, she started getting hunted by the cartel.
The cartel. Jesus, okay. Maybe. That'd be interesting, because then you have sort of more factions than just, like, the hive mind and the survivors.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, because humans, even if they were all against the same enemy, they would probably still bicker and fight amongst themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think we could also have, like those people, you know, travesty people who are working for the hive mind, but they're like, we will let you keep your individuality now, we'll take it later, but you're gonna help us get some people. You know, because I think
got like fucking mercenaries or some shit, bounty hunters.
Yeah, you know, the hive mind is intelligent enough to like play people against each other.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I have after she leaves the city is she's driving away. I imagine the city was New York, by the way. And she's driving away, and she ends up in, you know, the outskirts of Pennsylvania, you know, the bits where there's just nothing except for farms and stuff.
Yeah.
And she starts filling up at an old gas station when an elderly man comes out and presses a shotgun to the back of her head, like he sneaks up on her, and she doesn't notice. She freaks out and, you know, like screams and stuff, and he puts the gun away, and he's like, yeah, no, the hive mind wouldn't have reacted in the way you did, so I know you're, you know, human.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she has like a nice night with her first person for a long time. She like stays with him at his house, and he sort of explains his story, like probably some tragedy about like his, you know, son dying or some shit.
Yeah, maybe we have that episode. It's like she gets there and she, you know, the shotgun guy, and then the next episode starts and they've been hanging out for a while, and he tells her the story, and we do a flashback, and he's talking about his dead son, but his son is played by a really, really huge actor. Like we just get like Brad Pitt to play his kid.
That'd be kind of funny.
And then we don't explain it. And then the, you know, kid dies, and we never see Brad Pitt again, but he was there.
I kind of like that. That'd be funny.
That'd be fun.
Essentially, the whole point of this meeting, though, is that he explains where New Babylon is, because he's sort of like an old grizzled man. He knows sort of the ways of the wasteland now. He's experienced. But he's too old to go there himself, because he just sort of wants to die in his gas station because he's sad about his son or some shit like that.
Or maybe his wife is comatose. Like, she's in the gas station in the bed, and he's like, if I move her, she's gonna die. Okay. And she's like a vegetable. Maybe that could be it, I don't know. It's like, my son died, and my wife was, you know, crippled from the neck down. She's, you know, in pain all the time, but I can't leave her. So take my badass Jeep with all my machine guns. Yeah.
Oh, maybe she gets like a fucking nice muscle car from him, like a 69 Mustang or something.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty badass to go across the U.S.
Maybe he's fixing that up.
Yeah.
He's fixing that up during the day.
She probably has like a beat up Subaru, and she's like maybe trying, like she's getting gas at the gas station, but she's also like working on the engine, and like this thing is fucked up. And he's like, sure, you can take my car. And then it's like the cool muscle car.
She's looking at the car and it's like, wow, this is beautiful. You know, and that's when he sneaks up on her.
Yeah.
She's like, somebody's been working on this. Nobody move. I'm scared. I don't want to get shot. Or maybe she also pulls a gun on him.
Yeah, I guess maybe we could write that scene better, because it needs to be essential that he immediately realizes, based on her reaction, that she's not part of the hive mind.
Yeah, maybe she
because the hive mind, maybe she does something that shows that she's concerned about getting shot. Like maybe she jumps to hide and cover or something, or you know, something like that. Because it's the hive mind wouldn't be concerned for if one person died.
Yeah, maybe it's like she's kneeling down, looking at the car, and he puts a shotgun to the back of her neck, and a regular, like a hive mind person, would stand up and turn around slowly, but she jumps to the side and pulls a gun on him, and he's still got a gun trained on her, and then there's a brief couple beats.
And they both realize maybe, and they both put the guns down, because she's pretty grizzled, so she knows the ways of it as well.
maybe she like lets the gun down on her finger and he puts the gun down. And she's like, fucking thank God, because this doesn't have any bullets in it. And it's like a complete bluff. And he's like, well, now I definitely know you're human. You know?
I like that a lot, actually. It's pretty good. So he explains to her that Babylon, New Babylon, is in the Pacific. She's like, fuck, I gotta drive across the whole U.S. And so she's the main bit of the season is her driving across the country and sort of, seeing how the world is across the U.S.
Yeah. Maybe there's like different civilizations, like different little towns that have managed to survive through one way or another. Because I know that in the Midwest there's this place, and people might have heard of this. It's this place that underground there was this massive fire in the coal mines that are underneath of this town. So the underneath the ground has been, this fiery inferno for the past like 30 years, but there's still a little town on top, and people still live there, like in actuality in the real world.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be cool if she was driving across the country, and it was like, this is the hell pit place. The hive mind wouldn't fucking move there, because obviously, look at it, it's about to explode any day now. And so, or maybe they've like managed to rig up some like civilization that's above the streets, like in skyscrapers, and like they have like bridges from
each one
across. Yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I actually just noticed that I didn't name the city, or I did name the city New Babylon, right? But in a couple places I just call it Babel. So maybe I'll just call it Babel.
Oh, I like that. Or New Amsterdam.
New Amsterdam. New Amsterdam.
New Amsterdam. Constantinople.
So she's driving across the country, and sort of the idea of it is that she's going to meet new companions and sort of learn more about Babel and the world. The first one she meets is Elijah. Elijah is a 30-year-old African-American fireman who saves... Oh, shit. Never mind. Mark is the first one. Mark is a sarcastic college student from Ohio who survived by learning how to farm. So he lives on a farm.
Oh. Can he be like, he thought he was going University of Miami?
But he went to Miami, Ohio instead. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Like, he's like, yeah, I went to my University of Miami. I thought it was going to be sick, tons of babes out on the beach. And then I got here and was like, man, there's a lot of fucking potatoes.
Well, I didn't have him as like a jock kind of person. I sort of modeled him off of someone I know. So he's kind of like a kind of very cynical
communist
person. He's sort of similar to Arabella in that he's lived alone on this farm, just farming his whole time.
Yeah.
And they meet because she stops the farm and she's out of food, and he's like, I got fucking beets. You want some beets? And so
I'd like it if he only knew how to farm one thing.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
So he spent this entire time just farming one kind of thing, and he's getting sick of it. It's like, I've been eating fucking carrots for 2.5 fucking years. There's only so many ways you can prepare them.
Oh my god.
I'm tired of carrots. I can see really well, but besides that, I'm sick of it. My piss is orange. That's how many carrots I've been eating. Yeah.
And so, he starts traveling with her. So they're like a group now. He's essentially like the food person because he knows how to farm, I guess. So that maybe they stop a couple of times. And I guess that wouldn't make any sense. They couldn't farm. I don't know.
He
brought a bunch of food
navigator.
and they put it in her car. And so there's a lot of food now, but it's all beets. And I was saying Elijah first because I have it written down as Elijah first, but in his description, I have it saying that he saves Mark and Arabella from an attack, so I had to explain who Mark was first.
Yeah.
So,
how does he save them?
Well, I assume they go into the... I didn't actually write this down, but I assume they they go into the city and Mark does something stupid and he gets them revealed to the hive mind, and they're like trapped in like trying to run away, but there's like a huge horde of them coming in, and one of the members of the horde suddenly like switches, and he has a big fire axe and just sort of like wipes out a bunch of them. I imagine it's some sort of like badass scene. Then they like get in his fucking fire truck or something and leave. Maybe he doesn't have a fire truck. That'd be kind of ridiculous. Anyway, but like he joins up with them because he's looking for his son, and he didn't know where New Babel was, and he thinks his son possibly could be there after talking with Arabella about it. So he's looking for his son. Mark's along for the ride, and Arabella is looking for her brother.
Maybe Elijah's ex-wife and his son were in LA when this all went down. So it's like, well, if anyone's there, it's them, because they're in. I'm assuming this is like a oil rig style situation, where they're all off the shore.
Oh, like the city? Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe, and I was thinking about Elijah. It would be cool if maybe he's like this, like myth, or this like horrifying nightmare to the hive mind, that he's just like an exterminator for hive mind people. So he's like been living in the city on his own, and he's using like a flamethrower and like a fire axe, and they call me the fireman, and because he's killed thousands of hive mind people, just because he's like, I am legending that shit, I am legend. He's doing that. And they're like, maybe we can like overhear some hive mind people, like people in the hive mind discussing like, have you contacted Jeremy today? I was like, no, I'm sorry to inform you, Jeremy was assassinated by the fireman.
Okay, yeah, I like that, because I sort of had him as sort of like a badass. He's the guy in the group that can wipe out the hive mind people.
Yeah, and maybe it can be like slowly revealed over the series, like that the hive mind is, and like the culture of the hive mind, of the people in the hive mind, is more complex than we originally thought.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as much like, oh, you don't think anymore, you just think way differently, and you're just a different person but the same body. Different goals, I think that would be cool, because that's just not something that's touched on.
The final member of the group, her name is Sarah. She's a young Asian girl who has no one, so she's like probably like 14 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't like, her family's gone or whatever, and I have it down that that she directed them away from a hostile horde, like she helped save them by hiding them. I don't really have the scenario, but that's sort of how they meet, is like they're like running away from a horde of these guys, and we probably have Elijah like hacking a bunch of them up, but there's a lot of them, and so they're like running down a hallway or something, and Sarah's like at the end, and she like points in a direction. They're like, what the fuck, is this little girl here? I don't know. And then she like comes with them, and they hide in like this little hidey hole that's probably the girls, and they sort of understand through the whole, like, she's been living here for a long time and she's been alone, and so they sort of adopt her.
Maybe it could be, I'm just trying to think of big open spaces that I would go to if I were in this situation. I think like an airport. I think it'd be cool if there was like a scene where they're like exploring this airport, hoping to find a plane that works, or somebody who could fly a plane.
Because they can get to the Pacific faster,
first.
Maybe they're in like Chicago or something.
Like, and they're like, not really, they keep hearing like things off in the distance of the airport, but they don't think that the hive mind is there, because it's just completely empty. And it turns out that this little girl has been living inside of the airport for, the entire apocalypse, just like, taking stuff from all the stores and everything. And so after the world ended, the hive mind like grounded all of the planes and took out everything that made them work as planes.
Yeah, okay.
And then we could, because they don't like greenhouse gases, and then we could have like a ticking clock. and then they show up at the airport, and the only way that they can escape is the little girl on the intercom telling them what to do.
Interesting. I like that too.
Yeah.
That's good.
And she's in like the monitoring station. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, moving forward. I got a little bit more and then I'm done. So they get to California and they learn that Babel's across the water through the radio station, Radio Free Babel. And so they listen to that, and it's like, you know, it's like propaganda stuff to come to Babel, and it's like, they had to get there, and it's like playing some nice music or something. It's a very nice radio station. And so they get a boat, because that's really the only way to travel, because, you know, the planes are all fucked up, as you said.
Yeah. There's a ferryman, maybe. They get I'm thinking like a southern ferryman. He's got a mustache.
Yeah, his name's Daniel. I actually do have an old boat captain, and they can't because none of the motorized boats work, so they get a fucking sailboat and they sail across.
No, they get can they get a steam engine?
Steam engine, maybe.
Like the toot toot
maybe
boats with the paddles.
Oh my god!
I'm thinking. Have you ever played Fallout 3?
Yeah.
You remember the DLC? Point Lookout for Fallout 3. Oh, well, in Point Lookout, a DLC pack for Fallout 3, you take a steamboat down to Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, sick. That's kind of cool.
Or you take it down to Maryland, more like Ocean City.
Oh. Not as cool.
Gross, I know. Yeah, gross.
So, what I have, just sort of explaining what Babel is, they get to Babel. It's like a utopian city owned by a billionaire who built it. And that's sort of the end I have for this story of what I've written so far. I think maybe that the billionaire is like brothers with another guy that's rich, and maybe like he's the one who created the hive mind, and there's some weird like brother thing going on. I'm not totally sure. I haven't really figured that all out yet. But I kind of like the idea that like
maybe
the billionaire that owns the city is partially responsible for the hive mind, and the hive mind isn't like an alien creation, it's like a human creation.
Maybe it's like a gray goo situation, like they made some
fuck off with your goo
robotic software that's like liquid, and it's like, yeah, with this we can reanimate
put your
living
goo
tissue.
In my story. We talked about this at the beginning. No goo.
Okay, no goo then. Okay, it's a plug-in. It's a fungus. Maybe New Babylon is, you know, that giant trash pile in the middle of the ocean? I think it's in the middle of the Atlantic.
Well, wait, they're in the Pacific.
Maybe. Yeah, I know. But
I
in
see.
this universe, it could be in the Pacific. But in this universe, that like this millionaire, trillionaire, maybe he received contact. I kind of like the idea of it being an alien thing, but maybe like he received contact, 10 years before they got there, from another alien civilization, warning humanity that in 10 years a hive mind monster is going to come and kill you all. And instead of telling people or trying to prepare in any way, this guy used that information to like create New Babel, and like weaken. And then later in the series, you can be like, he weakened government infrastructure, and like through manipulating funds and lobbying, he made it more easy for the hive mind to take control, because things were made more difficult to get done. People were divided, so they didn't want to work together. And I don't want it to be like entirely his fault, but he did everything he could to help it happen.
Maybe because he had some delusional idea like that they couldn't fight, and he needed the resources or something for New Babel to build it. So they would find this out, like, maybe Arabella would be like fucking confront him about it or some shit like that, and he'd be like, I did it for like humanity. They wouldn't have been able to handle it even if they tried, with all their weapons and stuff. It wouldn't have been okay. The only way to survive is if we hide, and
the only way to truly survive is through destruction. And maybe he's like, after 1 year of like having this radio signal telling people to come to New Babel, after 1 year, I'm going to launch all of the nukes on the planet.
To wipe out the... okay.
Yeah, onto, like, the land of Earth. And we will, the Earth is made up 70% of water, so we'll just spend the rest of our time on water. And it's like the land is no longer our friend. We use the water to grow things. Yeah.
Interesting.
So he's like a Ozymandias in Watchmen. He thinks he's the good guy, but he's really not.
Do you think he should win like Ozymandias in Watchmen?
I think what we could do is we find this out at the second season, and it looks as if he's won at the end of the second season. And if we get a third season, we show that he only launched all of the nukes on the American continent. So our characters, if they want to, can leave New Babel and go to Europe and Asia, and like travel to other parts of the world, or Australia.
Why would he only nuke just the US?
That's how I would end it. Maybe he meant to nuke the whole world, but they were able to stop him. Or he just, like, when he bought the nuclear launch codes from China, they just lied to him. And they're like, no, we're not going to send this.
Okay.
Yeah, he bought them from some Russian hackers, and they made up most of them.
We have to figure out, like, sort of the why, though, because I don't understand why they would stop him. I mean, like, I sort of understand, but I don't, like, what's their real reasoning for stopping him from firing the nukes? Because there is people, I guess, on those continents, but there's also just lots of hive minds. So I guess they could argue that, like, hey, we gotta save the people first. That could be their argument.
Or maybe hive mind doesn't attack animals. So, like, the whole world has been healed. I think you can make this into, like, a save the world kind of show. It's like, while humanity has been destroyed by this hive mind, it is taking care of the planet, and like, there's no species that's near extinction. Like, everything's fixing itself. The coral reefs are repairing.
You could make it sort of an argument of he wants to nuke the Earth and kill the hive mind. And the other argument is that they want to leave the planet. Like, maybe they have another habitable place, and they have, like, the technology and the capabilities to get there in this billionaire city, because there's probably, like, tons of really smart scientists or something. I don't know. But, like, sort of those are the two arguments. Like, we either leave the Earth or we nuke it, and our characters are sort of behind the leaving.
Yeah, just leave it alone. And
because like they don't want to, because maybe the idea is that the hive mind, it's still these people, like they're still, you're still killing them, and and you'd be killing all these animals, and you'd be destroying the Earth, just so that we could take it back.
In a few thousand years, when the radiation, levels.
So like that plan would destroy the planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's good. That's a good show. We've been talking for a while. Holy shit.
We have. Good old 40 minutes.
Well, have fun editing this down.
I will.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles Long. With me, as always, has been my co-host, editor, producer, gunner, goo boy.
What the fuck?
And pilot provider, Jacob Gloth. Thank you, Jacob. You can find us at VRP Podcast on Twitter. You can find me at Charles_Lungs on Twitter, and you can't find Jacob nowhere, no how. Ain't that right?
Yep. Nowhere.
All right. And if you were in a hive mind situation, would you want to leave the Earth be or nuke it all, just so that they can't have it? Thank you. Stay safe.
We can't have it. No one can.
Exactly. You want to be like that? I don't. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.